A social or political system is a code of principles that men observe in order to live together. The political expression of the principle that no man may initiate the use of force against other human beings is the concept of rights. Observe that the question of rights would not arise on a desert island. Such a question as, does man have the right to his life, his freedom, and his property, would not and could not arise if there were no other human beings potentially capable of depriving him of these possessions. It is for this reason that Miss Rand defines a right as a moral principle defining man's freedom of action in a social context. Observe that the word right itself is a moral term. In political usage, it pertains to a sanction for certain actions, but it has a wider moral usage, as when we speak of things as right or wrong. Man's basic right, the right from which all other rights derive, is the right to life. This means the right to act in the manner which man's life requires, the right to think and to translate one's thought into action. Why does man possess this right? Because it is a necessity of survival. Quoting Galt's speech, quote, "Rights are conditions of existence required by man's nature for man's proper survival. If man is to live on earth, it is right for him to use his mind. It is right to act on his own free judgment. It is right to work for his values and to keep the product of his work. If life on earth is his purpose, he has a right to live as a rational being. Nature forbids him the irrational. Any group, any gang, any nation that attempts to negate man's rights is wrong, which means is evil, which means is anti-life." Unquote. It is not thus that rights traditionally have been conceived. Insofar as rights have been defended in the past, they have been upheld usually to be a gift either from God or else a gift from society. It has been argued that since man's life belongs to God, other men must not harm him or enslave him. I do not have to tell you what is wrong with such an argument. To tie rights to God is to build one's entire political philosophy on an arbitrary mystical base, a base that no man of reason will accept. To tie rights to mysticism is to declare that there is no rational justification for them, no rational reason why men should not murder and enslave one another. A political system that has nothing better to offer as sanction for its precepts than the authority of a supernatural ghost is doomed from the start. To claim that man's rights are a gift from society is to assert that man exists not by right but by permission. Rights are a moral concept. Man possesses them by his nature as man, or he does not possess them at all. That which society gives, society can take away. A permission can be revoked. If your life and freedom are a gift from society, this means that you are the property of society. Again quoting Galt, quote, "The source of rights is not divine law or congressional law, but the law of identity. A is A and man is man. Rights are conditions of existence required by man's nature for his proper survival." Close quote. All of man's other rights, the right of liberty, of property, of the pursuit of happiness, are contained in, implied, and necessitated by the right of life. The right to life means the right to think and to act on one's own judgment, which is the right of liberty. It means the right to work for the achievement of one's values and to keep the results, which is the right of property. It means the right to live for one's own sake, to choose and to work for one's own selfish goals, which is the right to the pursuit of happiness. The rights of life, liberty, property, and happiness are logically indivisible. To affirm any of these rights is to affirm them all. To negate, to deny any of these rights is to negate or deny them all. I want to point out that without the right of property, no other rights are possible. The right of property is the right to the use and disposal of that which one has produced. If one is not free to use that which one has produced, one does not possess the right of liberty. If one is not free to make the products of one's work serve one's chosen goals, one does not possess the right to the pursuit of happiness. And since man is not a ghost who exists in some non-material manner, if one is not free to keep and to consume the products of one's work, one does not possess the right of life. The concept of rights, and this is very important to understand, the concept of rights pertains to action. The right of life does not mean that somebody owes it to you to keep you alive. It does not mean that if you starve to death because you refuse to work, your right to live has been violated. The right of life means your right to take the actions which your survival requires, free from coercion and interference by other men. It means that you have the right to achieve and maintain your life, and that no one has the right to deprive you of your life. Similarly, the right of property does not mean that someone owes you property. It means your right to keep and use that which you have produced. Man's rights are inalienable, which means they are his by nature and by objective moral principle. A society's choice is not whether or not it will grant man's rights, but only whether or not it will choose to acknowledge that he possesses them. Rights can be violated, but they cannot be destroyed. If you murder a man, you do not alienate his right to life. The right is with him. You are wrong. You can take away a man's life, but you cannot take away his right to life. Remember that rights are a moral concept, and that moral issues are always a matter of choice. An individual or a government is factually free to refuse to recognize man's rights and to function on the policy of a criminal. But they are not free to escape the consequences. If they pursue a course that is anti-life, death and destruction is all they will achieve, as they are achieving it in most of the world today. The practical form in which one acknowledges the rights of others in action is the commitment to deal with them only by their voluntary consent. There is only one way in which rights can be violated, by the use of physical force. Fraud is an indirect form of force. Both consist of obtaining from a man that which he is not willing to give voluntarily. In a free society, you may do whatever you wish, provided you do not violate the rights of other men. This, let me stress, is not a limitation on your freedom. If men do not possess rights, you can make no moral claim to the right of freedom. If they do possess rights, you cannot claim that your rights consist of violating the rights of another. You cannot claim the right to a contradiction.